Thanks for coming out, everybody. Good evening. My name is Carrie Rattle. I'm CEO and founder of Behavioral Sense. I focus on helping women change their everyday money behaviors so they can build wealth for themselves and their families. And I am happy to be a women's money mentor for the #1 financial program in the country for women. So Women's Money is what we're doing tonight. This is the first lesson of 10. And just administratively, I would like to acknowledge that we have Greater Ossining TV filming the series, which is great, so we can sort of share with a lot of other people the basics of financial literacy. The trick, though, is you have to actually come to the class to get the workbook, guys. So if you like what you hear, come join us for more, and you can actually fill out the exercises. We have 10 classes. So this is the first. It's every other Thursday. So the next class will be March 22nd. Same time, same place. The workbooks you have in front of you are yours to keep. You can take them home if you want to read ahead, great. There are exercises, some of which we'll do in class, some of which may be a little bit of homework. I promise that the homework isn't too super heavy. And you can keep those forever once you've used them. So everybody's got their nameplates, I see, which is super. And GoTV, they will be filming the first part of the class, so the first hour. And then the second hour, if we want to talk privately about our own circumstances or ask personal questions, then we will have the privacy of the room. And it is important to acknowledge that while we are here as a group, if someone does talk privately about their personal situation, that it stays in the room and we don't share with other people. It's all just to help us all learn. So I'm going to start with a really odd question, because we're not going to get into the numbers on the first lesson. The question is, does money buy happiness? And no, I have another person saying no. Why not?
Money can make you unhappy if you don't have it, but by itself, it doesn't make you happy.
Wise words. How about you?
I wish to have money, but I know people who have money who don't even sleep. I need to have some money.
And sleep,
Yes.
right? Both would be good. Any other thoughts?
Money provides convenience, but not happiness. You know, happiness is a intangible, I guess, or so, you know, invaluable is a better word.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, like as she said, if you don't have it, some, you know, it's unhappiness, as like he said, but money provides more of a convenience than happiness.
So you guys are pretty wise. It's true. There have been a couple of questionnaires conducted in the industry. And they typically say that around $75,000. Above that, money does not buy you incremental happiness. Now, $75,000, first of all, is sort of like the nation average they talk about. Here we happen to live in one of the most expensive counties in all of the US, so it probably has to be a bit more than $75,000, but we're not talking millions, right? So you don't get incremental value from extra money because it can create grief, just as a couple of you said. So I'm going to ask you a second question. If you have a really big salary, are you wealthy?
It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have a lot of bills and crazy expenses, it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
how much you need.
Yeah, no, it's very true. A lot of people feel wealthy because they have huge incomes, but if what you've got coming in is also leaving, there is no wealth. Wealth is being able to save money so it can work for you. And so that's part of the point of teaching all of this, helping people manage their money a little more carefully so that you don't have to make a ton of money to actually have some wealth and security. And you don't have to make a ton of money to be happy by any means. So I think you guys passed with flying colors. You probably just don't need me for the rest of the 10 weeks. So now we're going to look on page 1 in your book, and there's a table at the bottom of it. The table is a little old because the book itself is a little old. Jean Chatzky, who actually doesn't live far from this neighborhood, has been known to write a lot of personal finance books. And she observed a number of behaviors that are typical for people who manage their money well versus not managing their money well. So this table, it's a little old in that it still talks about reconciling your checkbook. And I think it's safe to say most people, at least 55 or under, probably don't write too many checks these days. But what she really means is understanding what's in your checking account and making sure that when you write checks, you've actually got the money in there and you understand the ebbs and flows of your cash. So she talks a bit about paying your bills on time, not just once a month, but ensuring you pay them when they're due. She talks about discipline and organization. People who manage their money better have those traits. So as we go through these classes, what we're going to try to do is help you build the discipline and some of the focus and understanding so that you do become better at managing your money. Now we're going to look at, there's a financial selfie on the next page. It's kind of fun. I like the way they call it selfie. And I'm actually going to read it out for the people watching the class as well so that you can rate yourselves. Now what's really important to know is that about halfway down the scoring changes. So don't run through all the questions and give yourself a certain score because the score reverses. So the financial selfie, this is all about how confident are you about how you manage your money today. And hopefully at the end of 10 weeks you can look back at this and say, wow, I feel more confident. So that's what we're hoping to get to. So the first question, because of my money situation, I feel like I will never have the things I want in life. True for 1 point, somewhat true for 2 points, false for 3 points. Number 2, I am just getting by financially. True for 1 point, somewhat true for 2 points, false for 3 points. Number 3, I am concerned that the money I have or will save won't last. True for 1 point, somewhat true for 2 points, or false for 3 points. Everybody's good? Number 4, I am behind with my payments. And that can be bills, it can be a car payment, it can be rent, it can be all sorts of things. So again, true for 1 point, somewhat true for 2 points, and false for 3 points. Number 5, and this is the last one that's scored a certain way, and then we're going to switch. Giving a gift would put a strain on my finances for the month. True for 1 point, somewhat true for 2 points, or false for 3 points? Now, number 6. I have confidence in making financial decisions. True for 3 points. Somewhat true for 2 points. False, 1 point. Okay, number 7. We're almost at the end, it goes to 9. I have money left over at the end of the month. True for 3. Somewhat true for 2. False for 1. And number 8, I can handle a major unexpected expense. True for 3, somewhat true for 2, false for 1. You guys are pretty quick at this. And the last one, I have specific financial goals that I am working towards. True for 3, somewhat true for 2, or false for 1. Now, what you do is add up all those scores and get yourself a total. If you have a total score of 21 to 27, it means you are financially confident. How do you guys feel? If there's a score of 13 to 20, you're somewhat financially confident, but you just need a little bit of help. If you have a total score of 9 to 12, not quite financially confident, and yes, I'm glad I'm here. So that's just a little bit of start. That's for you to keep. You don't have to hand it in to anyone. It's for you just to do an assessment on yourself and see how you feel. Now we're going to get into the fun part of money. I love this part. This is about money and communication and emotion, this whole chapter. It's not about the dollars and cents. Has anyone heard of the phrase retail therapy? You heard of it? Nope. How about you, Sharon? Nope? Okay. I thought everyone had heard of this. So the retail therapy is all about, and we'll divide it into the 2 words, retail, right? So you think of going shopping. Therapy, you have a bad day, you go shopping. You want to take control back of a really lousy week, so you go shopping. Or you really feel so beat up, you just want somebody at your favorite store to sort of acknowledge who you are and make you feel special, right? Retail therapy is a phrase that has been used for, I don't know, probably at least 3 decades, if not more. And if you think about it, it sort of encapsulates the recognition that with money comes emotion. What's interesting is that emotion drives how you spend money. Did you know that? Gives you a pause for thought, right? There's a really wise man by the name of Daniel Kahneman. He won the Nobel Prize in 2002 in economic sciences. He proved that there is emotion in every money decision you make, every single one, and logic in few. Is that surprising? Even for the guys on Wall Street. Logic is in very few of the decisions. It's all emotional. Which, could be cause for worry, but we're all human, right? So, here's why. When you start out small, 1, 2 years old, you're probably sitting in a living room and you've got your parents and they're talking about money or they're not talking about money. They could be fighting about money. And when you're even a year old, you start hearing things from your parents or from anyone else who influences your life. You may hear your dad talk about, well, the neighbors have a new car, so I think I need a new car because I really like their car and it looks really sharp. Or your mother may be putting pennies in a jar, saying a penny saved is a penny earned. All these things you absorb as a child. So you develop a money personality just like you have your own personality. And sometimes it's all about security and saving. Sometimes your personality is about status. Money gives you status in the world. Money makes you feel important. Money makes you part of the group. Sometimes your money personality is all about the deal, negotiating, or the sale, getting something on sale. You saved a lot of money because you just got something on sale. There are all sorts of different money personalities, and with that comes the emotion and triggers that you learned as a kid. So that affects who you are today. It also affects your family, because everyone in your family has a different money personality. Pretty bizarre, right? I'll give you an example. So I come from a family of 4 kids. I'm the eldest. Then I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me, 4 years younger than me, and my brother who's 7 years younger than me. When I was 7, so my sisters were 5, 3, and my brother hadn't been born yet. My mom was at home in bed, pregnant. My dad was working for a corporation. And there were some unpleasant things going on, and they weren't quite honest, and he felt really uncomfortable. He had tried to hang on, but he couldn't work there anymore. He was a pretty high integrity, soft-spoken kind of man. So he quit. At the age of 7, my father decided to go into real estate, which takes a while to build a salary in. So for the first 4 years, when I was 7 to 11, Mom and Dad didn't have a lot of money. Their savings decreased. Then they started worrying about paying bills on time. My sister was from 5 to 9 in that period. So for me, I remember hearing my dad say, "I have $5 left in my pocket." He was talking to my mom. "I have $5 left in my pocket, and I'm not sure if I should give it to the church or buy milk for the kids." So for me, money is security. I, at the very wise age of somewhere between 7 and 11, decided that I would never let that happen to me or my family, so that I would save and save and save. My sister, 2 years younger, is a really sensitive person. Hearing about money anxiety in the house was upsetting for her. So she denied it. She didn't want to know about money. When she graduated from high school, she started working. She earned money. She spent lots of money, racked up her credit cards, decided to go to Europe on a trip. And meanwhile, my mother was getting the calls from creditors back home saying, "Hey, your daughter owes money off her credit card." My sister finally came around. My mother wouldn't pay it. So my sister finally became wiser about her money, but she had shut it out because it was so hurtful to her when she heard Mom and Dad worry. My little sister and brother were so young they didn't know. They were happy, they were fed, they got to play in the backyard. They didn't know any different. So today, I'm security focused. My next sister is less worried about money. My other sister and brother are more status focused because they had more money. And my parents could afford more things, so they got used to more things. So 4 kids in the same family, hearing different things from Mom and Dad, made us all different about how we manage our money. It's kind of interesting, right? How many of you are married? Got one. So, here's what's even more interesting. When you get a spouse, your spouse definitely will not have the same money personality as you do. You may be close, or you may be wide apart. And usually when you're wide apart, what happens? People end up getting divorced because they can't reconcile their money behaviors. So I've got an example here for you. you don't know necessarily what you are. Nobody says you're a saver or a spender. You're just you, right? And you don't know who you are until you start comparing yourself to other people. So today, we're all going to be savers. We're over here. And we're going to pretend we're married to a spender. Here's what happens, and you don't even always know you're doing it. Sometimes it's so obvious it'll get you mad, but other times you don't know you're reacting. So here's an example. Our spouse comes home and says, I had a great day, I got a bonus, I bought us a TV. Yes. So the spending is freedom. Freedom to choose what you want, to do what you want, to buy what you want, right? So it's inherent in a person's feelings. Saver. Okay, TV, $700. Where are we going to find this money? You could have been saving it, blah, blah, blah. So all this stuff is going through your head. And they're not happy thoughts. They're not, oh boy, like your spender spouse. It's like, oh no. So you start making up for it. You start making up for it by even being more of a saver than you were. What you'll do is things like this. Okay, mentally, $700. Dear, let's not go out to dinner Saturday night. Let's stay in instead. Because mentally you're saying, oh, I can save $50 or I can save $100 doing this. Oh, let's not go do that. We don't really need that after all. Mentally you're saying, oh my gosh, I can save another $100. But while you're saying, let's not go out to dinner, the spender is saying, whoa, I like to go out to dinner. You're restricting me. So then the spender rebels and becomes more of a spender. So you end up going like this and this, and this and this sometimes until you get so extreme you drive each other crazy and start fighting about it. And you don't even realize what you're doing. Because it's not just the money, it's what the money means. So when your security is threatened, you need to sit on that money and save it. When your freedom to spend is threatened, you're going to rebel and spend more, just like a teenager would when you ground them. So this is what happens when you get money personalities that start working together. Have you guys ever run into anything like that with sisters or brothers or parents? Spouses? Charlie, yeah?
Absolutely.
Now you're still married though.
Oh, yes.
So that's
You
a
can
good
just
thing.
see from your spouse's background how they developed and what their concerns are. It's very true.
Yes. Yeah, it's very true. How about you guys? You fight with anybody? Disagree with anybody?
Sometimes. I feel like, I don't know, it depends. Now being married is different though, because you don't really have to share, like, you know,
Everything.
you don't have to share everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like what you just mentioned, like the siblings, like I'm 1 of 4 too.
Uh-huh.
We all kind of have different spending habits. So like, you know, our mom was getting a little bit older, so sometimes when it's time to talk about different things,
Yeah.
everybody, some will react quicker than others. Some are like, oh, I'll get it later. Others are like, let me pay, you know, everything now. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's interesting. right?
everyone is, and I fall, it's so funny, like I feel like you fall in the middle sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm the youngest, so I can relate to, like you said, like your younger siblings.
Yeah.
When you kind of come around and you're younger, so you have, you know, a little bit more liberty. But then I do feel like, you know, sometimes I'm just like, you know, frugal. I feel like I'm in the middle.
Mhm.
But sometimes I do feel like I just need to go buy something.
It's that retail therapy thing.
Yeah, sometimes I do
Right.
feel like that happens to me sometimes. I mean, I try not to, because I do see, you know, like I went to school for marketing and stuff in like the business, so I know what you mean, like people do, the emotion drives like so much, like more than logic, like people like, buy things they don't need, it's really don't need, but,
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you should deprive yourself. Life's too short. But there's the balance of taking care of yourself and having fun and treating yourself once in a while, but making sure that you're paying yourself and saving too, right? So it's all a balance. It's when it's out of balance that you get into trouble, one way or the other. So it's kind of good to understand, especially too, when you are spending, if you know, you're aware of it, and that's part of it. So now we're going to get into the money story. I told you a bit of my money story, growing up, 4 kids, my dad and mom. I'm going to give you 5 to 10 minutes now in your book. It's on page 4, My Money Story. And here's why we're doing this. Because it is the foundation of who you are, how you think about money, and how you behave a certain way. And it also helps you recognize where some of your triggers might be. My poor husband, when we first got married, we had a credit card for the household. It would just happen to be in my name. He paid the bill 2 days late. You would think that he had just blown up the entire house. I was so furious, right? Because for me, money is security, paying things on time is important to me. And the poor man, he never did it again. But it was a very extreme trigger for me. So I learned it's not just me anymore, it's my husband and I are a partnership. And he deserves respect and I have to calm down. It was only 2 days, it wasn't the end of the world. But that's how you find your triggers. Illuminati, you might find you and your daughter have different triggers. Because she's what, 20?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's a woman now. Yeah, do you find that she has so many triggers or behaviors? Do the two of you clash at all?
No, actually, I'm here because my husband died 3 weeks ago. So when I saw the money and cents, I'm here just to learn how can I go forward, because he was the one who was dealing with money. Now, how myself can I deal with this money?
Yeah. Oh, good. You're gonna get that. It's tough, right? And I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I'm glad you're here because we will help, and you'll get as much help as you need. It's when you have a partnership, it's always good to divide and conquer. Like you can't get everything done in the house, especially when you're raising kids. So somebody has to do the dishes, somebody has to do the cooking. You divide and conquer. But this is what I say to people. If your husband takes the trash out, okay, you don't have to take the trash out, but if he breaks his leg, you need to know how to take the trash out because you're going to have to cover for him. So it's good to try to learn both sides, and so I'm glad you're here learning, and I'm sorry it has to be in such a situation.
So maybe my daughter doesn't know or doesn't realize that it is for her. So that's why I had asked her to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Making sure your young daughter gets a money education.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because it will hold her in such good stead. So maybe we can get her at the next one.
Maybe.
Yes, hopefully. If you show her your homework, maybe she'll get interested that way. Okay, so let's get into the money story. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to start, and if you're still writing and thinking about it, I can give you a bit more time. Okay? There you go, that's the right page. Yeah. Okay. Okay, what do you think? Now that you've written it down. Any observations? What do you think you are in terms of a money personality? We're going to talk just a bit more about family communication. Money can be really emotional. And so here are some tips if you ever have to talk with someone. Certainly when taking care of your mother, right? We 4 siblings did that with my parents as well. And sometimes things are so sensitive because you're so tired and your parents are so ill and your money personalities come out a lot. So a couple of tips. If you ever do want to talk with anyone about a sensitive money topic, it's good to sort of pick common ground. So my husband has his special man cave. We would not talk about it in his man cave because that's his territory. We would talk about it in sort of neutral ground so nobody has more power than the other. Don't talk to them when you're really mad or upset. Wait until a couple of days have gone, until you've calmed down a bit, and stick to the facts, right? So there's I think you're really irresponsible because you're spending so much money and I don't like it. There isn't a fact in there, right? It's lots of emotion and it could be very true, but there's no fact in there. So you want to say, hey, our credit card balance never gets paid off. I don't think that's right. I don't feel comfortable with it. The balance is $2,000. How do we work together to pay that off? And so it's all about the facts. And you can acknowledge that it makes you feel uncomfortable, but you need to talk about the facts. Sometimes, too, in a family dynamic, it's good to give each other roles based on what they're good at. I just finished working with a family of 3, and they needed to reduce their spending. So Mom is the chief breadwinner. So we called her Chief Revenue Officer. And it's her job, because her income goes up and down, it's her job to tell the family when it's going to be a good month or a tighter month. Then she and her husband clashed a lot, so we thought, okay, we can't have him managing the expenses. So she's got a 12-year-old daughter who is just brilliant, and she really likes numbers. So she's Chief Expense Officer of the family. That's her official title. So it's like they're running their own little company. So she holds a meeting once a month, calls her mom and dad together and says, here's what we've been spending and here's where I think we need to change. And then Dad is Chief Happiness Officer. He's Chief Happiness Officer for a couple of reasons. He doesn't do numbers. He can't really take any interest in them whatsoever. But he does care for the women in his life. He loves them to death. So he wants to make them happy. It's his job to think of something fun to do, but he has to go to his daughter and say, can we afford it? So that way everybody kind of works together. Nobody fights. Everybody has a role. And then they all learn to think together and plan ahead so that they can save more money. And over the last few months, they reduced their spending by 14%, which is, it's a percentage, it's hard to measure, but we're talking for them thousands of dollars, which is really good because now they're saving it. Okay, so now we're going to get into the last part of this lesson. It's all about financial organization. And that is just keeping your financial stuff organized in one spot. How do you organize your first of all, who gets most of their bills online? Who gets most of their bills by paper, by mail?
Half and half.
Half and half? Half online, half in the mail?
I still pretty much, while I check a lot of it online,
Yeah.
I still kind of get it in paper.
So you get both. It's like a backup.
I check online, but I still, like, I haven't, like, committed to, like, paperless.
I don't like
Yeah.
somebody automatically going into my account.
Yes, yeah. I can understand that.
And also, I think it's hard when people when they give over their cards to people, they lose the control that you had in days when you used to just simply write checks. It can get out of hand for people.
Yeah.
So we're really not careful.
And I think depending on the bill, because I still feel like, you know, in my sense, when I look at things, even while I'm not, like we talked about check writer, I don't write checks. I like destroyed them. But I do check my online. And sometimes it's like, you know, you need to make sure things have gone out. But even like sometimes like, you know, your phone bill, like I know I just called like Sprint the other day, like, wait a minute, what's this charge? Why isn't this? This doesn't seem right.
Good.
So it's like I
Good.
don't auto pay because, you know, it takes forever to get those credits back. Like I'm waiting for credits for a couple of months now and I'm not understanding why I'm being overly charged.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think that that's for me, like I still like to get it in paper.
Yeah. I like that. So, you guys touched on a couple of things. Did you want to add anything, Illuminata?
No, I just set up online,
Yeah.
but I set up a date and I go and pay. It is not automatic.
Right. Perfect. So it's scheduled to pay on time, but it's not automatically taken from your account. You have to schedule it every
I
month.
have to go and pay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. First of all, I like what you said because you scrutinize your bills. It's something a lot of people do not do, right? It only takes a couple of minutes at most of looking at your credit card bill because you usually know where you spend if you have a credit card, right? You'll see your dry cleaners, you'll see the typical grocery stores, and it's only every once in a while where there's an odd title, and it's kind of like, okay, it sort of rings a bell, or I have no idea what this is, and I did not spend $500. So it's good to stop and take a couple of seconds. If it comes in the mail, open it, peruse quickly, don't have to do anything with it, great, just pay it. You said something too, Charlie, in that people have gone from check writing to cards, and now, of course, phones, paying by your smartphone. The less you touch your money, the less pain there is. And it's not bodily pain, but it's the pain of feeling that money is actually going out the door. And it actually is a money theory. So, for instance, if you go on a vacation and you prepay everything, you're going to enjoy it so much more because your enjoyment isn't attached to paying. If you pay when you're there, you're more conscious of what you're spending and you'll actually spend less because it's psychologically obvious and painful to you. So you make a good observation. So let's talk about mail. How do you deal with your mail when it comes in? Do you open it the same day? Do you open it later? Do you open it once a week? What do you do?
Mine actually sits there. I'll be honest, like, while I like to get those bills in the mail, I still pretty much check a lot of the ins and outs online.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I may leave it there, take it to work, I'll scan it, like I keep it in my email, because maybe I'll shred it, like I'll keep it from my files. Because I'm like a person, like when I get paid is when I pay my bills.
Right.
So like I have like a certain amount of, okay, I know like this check pays these 4 bills, my car note, whatever, this check. So that's kind of how I do it, so that everything, and kind of like I don't forget. Like, so I just sit and maybe will pay like everything that's due in that cycle on that day. So kind of like, you know, it just like hit, you know, like already I take care of it.
Yeah.
So I don't always like, you know, I may have a pile of mail, but like I go online to check those bills and different things like that. But one thing I will say too, sometimes with credit card bills, and I've been finding this, like, I know we're like in the Amazon craze.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, I've had to question them a lot on returns. Like, you'll return something, and maybe you spent $30, you return it, they may give you $12. Like, I mean, I've had to call them, Like sometimes you may buy 5 things, you put 5 things in the box. They only give you money for 1 item. It's like, where are the other 4 items that I returned? Like, you know, like I had to go after them like for serious amounts of money because it comes, you know, you get it in 2 days. It comes up automatically. It almost takes forever. Sometimes, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Amazon to get a class action. Well, I'm serious because it's like, they don't return it back. It's like so many different like issues when it's time to return. And while it's easy in the 2 days and it's great because, you know, order something on Prime, it's here.
Yeah.
But I noticed
Comes.
like with things like that, with primarily them, like when it's like the returns, like when we talk about using like a credit card, like when you return things, like is it returned, you know, properly? Sometimes when you order it online, it's different than like when you go to the store.
Well, when you're doing with Amazon, isn't it really always through email? I mean, going back and forth, it's all done electronically. It isn't like you call up somebody.
Well, no, like you can call them, like
I've never found a number of it.
no, like actually, I'll say this, like Amazon has a number that you can actually put your number in and say, call me 5 minutes, call me right now. Like I'm always like, call you right now.
I never thought of it.
And then they'll call you and then, you know, you have to tell them, okay, look, you know, I ordered item ABC1, it was $20.99, it was broken, but yet I got my credit card back, you only gave me back $12.99, like where's my other $17? And they're like, oh, we apologize. Like, they give it back, but it's like, I shouldn't have to do that. You know, it's like you have to really, you know, and sometimes it's like, you know, when you're not paying attention, you know, or sometimes I find sometimes you go shopping and you'll say, oh yeah, give me that magazine for 3 months. You forget to call and cancel the child subscriptions. And those like, you know, add up from your bill too. But like, that's when I could say like, when it's time to like check bills, like I always have to back check them.
No, it's good. It's the smart thing to do, and it's really interesting. Amazon is such a phenomenon that when I help people build spending plans, we actually have a line for Amazon. But it's interesting. People will spend amazing amounts of money on Amazon. But you have to tease that out and sort of say, okay, what went to technology, what went to household goods, what went to books, because they don't realize how much they're spending on things. So it's very good to scrutinize. Now, Illuminati, you were going to say something about mail, and do you open your mail on time? And
I open up the same day because most of the time they are trash, and I just put the trash in the trash.
yeah, get rid of it, right? It's junk.
Yes, and then and keep the bill. I open up the same day. If it is to pay, I know when.
And so when you have to pay something, what do you do with them? Do you put them in a pile? Do you put them in a folder? When you have to pay things because you want to make sure you pay them on time, when you open them up, what do you do with them?
I don't have that many. I just take it to work, and then one of the day I pay it, and then I check it up that I paid, and I put it in my.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Some people, when they have too many bills and they're not paying them off, they get depressed, so they don't open their mail. I had a neighbor who was in financial trouble, and she said to me one day, oh, I don't know if I got it in the mail. We just throw our mail on the dining room table, and the pile is this high on the dining room table. And it's because they're stressed, they're anxious, they don't want to look at the bills. The problem is, though, you think about it, every time you walk into the dining room, you've got this knife of anxiety sticking into you yet again because you keep seeing the pile. So it's so much anxiety and it's so much worry. And half the pile, they wouldn't even sort it, so half the pile was junk mail, right, that like you, Illuminati, they could have just thrown away. And then even having a smaller pile is easier to handle. It's a little pile on your dining room table instead of a monster pile that just weighs on you every single day. So just starting with something simple like the mail, get rid of all the crap, and then if you have 2 files, okay, financial stuff I just need to file because it's just a statement. So take a quick look at it, nothing looks wrong, file it away, and then like you, Illuminata, the ones where you have to pay, the same with you, Althea, right? Just, you know, whatever works for you in terms of paying. So that might be, for some people, Sunday morning. They're having coffee, it's early, their kids aren't up yet, and you get it done that week. So then you're not late, it's paid on time. You make it a habit. My husband and I talk probably once a month about finances, and it tends to be Sunday mornings over coffee. How are we doing? You know, we max the 401k, how much are we putting away in, you know, IRAs and things and stuff like that. And we just talk about where's the money flow. Oh yeah, we have to do something in the basement, so that'll cost a bit. Whatever it is, we kind of touch base, we know where we're going, and we're good. Where do you guys put your stuff? Files? Now, Althea, you mentioned you scan some, so you put stuff in your PC electronically, right? Do you have folders?
I have like one of those like accordion things.
Yeah, so you also have a paper folder. You
Yeah.
scan and keep online, but you also have an
I have an
accordion.
accordion thing.
And how do you label it?
I like my car, student loan stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of just like credit cards.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. And so how do you find when it's tax time? Does that work for you?
Pretty much, because like I only keep like one, you know, I don't keep, you know, like you keep the main part that you're supposed to have. You know, I just kind of keep it folded. I just say, all right, this is, you know, car note stuff. You know, I'll write, you know, confirmation number type of thing.
Yeah.
So like I may file it before I pay it, just because I'm trying to, you know, not keep around the mail.
Yes.
But then like when I go back, I'll write, because you know, like they text me, and I'll just, or like when they send the payment receipt, because you know everything's going, you know, over the phone, you know,
Yeah.
they have your bank account kind of stuff. Then I just put that with it, and I just, when it's tax time, I kind of just take it with me.
So you've got it by category, and then if you've got receipts for payments made, you sort those in there as well.
Yeah, like I'll just
Keep
staple
track.
it. So like when they
Yeah.
send like the bill back, with like the confirmation, like saying thank you for paying this day, I'll just staple it like with that one.
Mhm.
It's not that heavy, so it's like, it's a little plastic accordion thing. It
Yeah.
just kind of comes with me. And then what I kind of started doing was like, I guess when the year's finish, kind of like, you know, just compiling all of those, okay, this is 2017 or whatever.
Yeah,
Trying
That's
just to keep less paper.
yes.
You know, I just feel like it's hard. Like the more paper, like I feel like you just lose stuff. So
Yes,
kind of,
it's true.
you know, that way. I don't have that much when I do my taxes, so I don't have to keep, you know, tons of receipts. But that pretty much works. Like I know where to find it.
Mhm.
You know, my little accordion thingy.
How about you, Charlie?
Well, listen, I've had a lot of experience in this, so I've got it down to
Well, share.
fine tune.
Share.
Well, my wife and I, we put everything through a credit card.
Yeah,
We have a credit card that we use for any of the ACH debits that you do automatically, and then one credit card that's for the monthly that will be paid off no matter what, because that's, everything goes through that.
yeah.
We put all of the receipts in one little plastic container there, and then I get up and have my coffee. And I enjoy that very much, and I sit down and go through it. And actually, it is good because I'll say, you know, well, this is our cost for Verizon this month. Why was it this high?
Yeah.
You know, so we really do catch a lot of things that way.
Yeah.
And then I have a plastic container where the hard copy goes, rubber banded, and they're all alphabetical. And so when I get to tax time, it's not pleasant, but I can get the information.
At least it's all in one place.
Yeah.
Because I've had
exactly.
places where people have like a bag here, a bag there.
Well, you know, the thing is, if if I'm paying a bill or something and I just put it in and I don't file it, like you said, it becomes overwhelming to just get it back in order again.
Yeah.
So I really try to stay on top of that.
Yeah, you know, you set stuff aside on a table or your desk, and I'll file it later, and I'll file it later, and then the pile's this high,
Right.
and then you have to take 2 hours of your time, not pleasant hours, rereading, okay, which month is this, which file does it go in, kind of thing, as opposed to, and it's hard. You walk in the door, you open the mail, you have to cook dinner because the kids are hungry, so that doesn't work, right? So maybe you walk in the door and take the stuff to your desk or part of the kitchen that's carved out for working at later, whatever it works for you, but you know, getting to it and getting rid of that quickly because it's amazing. Some people, they amass their mail in the garage, a corner of the garage, and then just don't get around to opening it. And bills are late, credit cards are late, it affects your credit score, all of that kind of thing. Anything else you do, Illuminata? Covers it pretty well. You sound pretty organized. You take it, you get to work, you get it paid. It's good. So let's talk about passwords and things too, because you guys are pretty well online. There are safe ways of taking care of your passwords and not so safe ways of taking care of your passwords. Does anybody use Evolved, like McAfee or Norton, or you know your web security software that you use?
You need to keep them in
To
there.
keep your passwords?
No.
How do you keep them? Well, don't be too explicit because we're on
I
TV.
just create wacky passwords, but I never like to put things like in those places because I feel like that's like if you throw them all in there, then if someone breaks into your cloud, they kind of get
Yeah.
everything. I try to just keep wacky passwords that, you know, you wouldn't think of for different things. You know, my goal is to not have so many accounts, you know, pay them off, so I won't need but so many. But I don't like to keep everything like in one place because I feel like if a person was to get into like your McAfee vault or even like that cloud, or everything is like in the open, you know, as soon as they crack that, they're like, oh, this person uses 123 at Yahoo, you know, it's kind of,
It's risky.
you
That's
know.
the thing I think is concerning about using apps. David, I know it's supposed to be safe, but I don't think you have the same protection you do on your computer. You know, and there are people all around the world finding ways to get
Yeah.
into things. So,
It's kind of a trade-off, right?
yeah.
Risk versus time.
Yeah.
I have 60 passwords,
Yeah.
so there is no way I could remember 60 passwords. I'm on so many sites for my business and networking groups, and everything these days needs a password, right? So I use Evolved. I also keep a backup in, you know, in some form, which I will not disclose. But yeah, getting back to, you know, let's pretend you're stuck in another country and you have to get something off your PC or out of somewhere that you need, like some backup for your passport because your passport was just lost. Is that stuff in a place where if you contacted someone else, they could get at it easily? Because you want to think about that too, right? Who's your backup person? If you're in the hospital or let's say you get knocked out and somebody has to access something of yours. Have you set it up so that they know where to go to get the password for the important things? So that's just another thought. You know, a sister or your daughter or whomever, is the important stuff somewhere where it's easily accessible just in case. And that's something you want to think about too. Okay, so there's an exercise in your binder, and you don't necessarily have to follow through with it all. It's up to you. It helps you. There's a bit of reading, and then there are some worksheets that help you think through access and how to organize things, it may or may not work for you. It's an idea of how to structure your organization for your finances, for taxes, for that instance when you're not around and can't get it. So I'll leave you to read that. And there's one last self-check at the end. And again, this is going to be for you to compare to the end of the course. It's on, let's see here, it's on page 14. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to GoTV. Thank you for joining us. The next actual lesson is going to be on financial goals. And we're going to talk about how we structure them, how we build our financial goals, and how we sort of estimate the cost of them. So that will be the next lesson in 2 weeks. And so thanks so much for joining us on TV. We'll see you again, and we can start with the self-chat with you guys. Thanks.